Well, welcome you guys. Really excited for today's session to nerd out on all things LinkedIn Sales Navigator. For those of you who don't know me, hello. I am Sam McKenna. I'm the CEO of #samsales. I'm joined by Paige today, who you will see, and Lily Mannion as usual, who will take all of your questions and feed you in one by one. Couple of just quick housekeeping details. Number one, if you have a question, if you want to share an example, if you have something specific that you want to go over, let us know. Throw a DM to Lily or throw your name in the chat and she will queue you up. Again, that's Lily Mannion. I'm really excited to take your questions. I know that LinkedIn Navigator can be a mystery for many, so excited to talk to you guys about that and all the ins and outs of it. Number two, I'm going to just show you guys a couple hacks and then we'll move into the Q&A. If you have more questions after today's session, we're going to do a coupon code for our LinkedIn Sales Navigator Masterclass, which should be music to JP's ears, who I know is on, which will be 40% off. So we did that just for you, buddy. You were welcome. And then at the end of our session, we'll also have a link to sign up for our next webinar. And if we can do anything to be of help to you or your teams, give us a shout. So with that, let's get started. A couple things I wanted to mention. So from a background perspective, for anybody who is new to this, I've been in enterprise sales for a million years, have found an inordinate amount of success using LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and then was a leader over the enterprise sales team for LinkedIn Sales Navigator when I was at the holy grail that is LinkedIn. So to say that I can nerd out on this is an understatement. I think one really interesting thing to me about LinkedIn Sales Navigator is that no one seems to really know how to use it, or the great majority of sellers, I should say, don't know how to use it. And it's always a surprise to me when I hear, well, isn't it just like LinkedIn.com? And is it just like premium, but better? And yeah, I have it, but like I look for some profiles and send some emails and that's what I do. When it is so much more than that. So this platform, if I can condense it to you in kind of one idea, one, it is totally separate from LinkedIn.com and LinkedIn Premium. If you are currently paying for LinkedIn Premium, hopefully there are no LinkedIn people on the call today. If you are paying for LinkedIn Premium, cancel that immediately, spend a few $100s more on an annual basis, get LinkedIn Sales Navigator, set yourself up for success. If you don't already have LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can also go to our site and get a 60-day free trial under the services section and the LinkedIn section there. So we'll give you that hookup as well. The difference with Navigator, right, is it is a separate, completely separate platform from LinkedIn, but it leverages all of the data and intelligence that you have on LinkedIn.com and answers basically any question that you have under the sun. It surfaces a ton of information for you. It lets you build lists. It lets you run searches. It's fantastic. But the biggest question people have is, well, that's cool. And I know how to do that and hit save and do things like that. But like, what now? Like, what list should I create? What searches should I run? So I'm going to show you a couple of my favorite features here, a couple of the pro searches that we run, things that you guys can probably do immediately after we hang up. And then we'll pass it over to you guys for questions to throw those our way. All right. So with that, here's Navigator. For you guys who don't know, right, we've got a centered feed here. It shows us basically everybody that we have saved. Hopefully none of you guys see your name there except for Catherine on our team. Everybody that we have saved, companies that we're trying to work with, companies that Navigator thinks we want to work with, right? It learns our style, it learns who we're trying to connect with, and serves us up for us in a centered feed here. One quick thing, there's a lot of information in the center feed. So one thing that I love to do in here is I don't really so much care about my accounts. I just care about my leads. So you can click on that and segment any of your alerts directly here. And you can also sort by a bunch of things. So relevance and latest, but if you go into leads, you can search even deeper than that. I love to see what people are posting, people who have changed jobs. I want to see people who have looked at my profile, right? And you can do that all by selecting this drop down here and then having a look at who's changing jobs, who's looking at you, who's posting important things. If you don't already have your leads segmented in lists, easy way to do that here and only see what you really want to see. Now, in terms of searches and things that we run, one of my very favorites is what you've got up here in lead filters. If you guys are not using this, holy moly, is it a just mecca of information. So click on lead filters, and here's what's really cool. So you guys now have 25 different search criteria that you can use over here to answer a question, right? So if you want to think about who's in my book of business that has this particular title, it works for this company, whatever, you can answer all these questions here. Here is an easy home run search that you can run. So if you pop over here to this section where it says company, look at current company on this side. current company, if I push plus, there's nothing listed here. But what I can do in here is I can enter my top 50 accounts, my tier 1 accounts that I'm targeting. I can enter companies by vertical here that I'm targeting. So if I'm going after tech or manufacturing, semiconductors, law firms, whatever it is, I can throw those in here. And what I'm basically doing is saying first to LinkedIn, by putting these companies in, tell me anybody on LinkedIn.com that identifies as working for this company. So let's just put in, let's put in LinkedIn. I throw this in, I will get a few results, right? So again, this is anybody who currently works for LinkedIn.com that will come up by the time it finally runs its search and shows it here. And that's all the criteria that I put in. That's the only thing that I'm asking it to tell me right now. 25,000 different search results of people who say, I work for LinkedIn. So that's great, but what else do I want to do? Anything that I want to put in here, again, any of the companies that I'm targeting, so LinkedIn, Salesforce, Google, whatever it is, all of those go in here. That's our tier 1 accounts. If you have an integration with Salesforce, or if you have an integration with Dynamics, you can also just import your book of business in one go, so you don't have to do this by hand. If you don't have that, or if you're like, I'm sure we do, but I don't know how it works, just put it in by hand. And again, just segment down by vertical or some of your tier 1 accounts. Now, what do we do next? Past company. So this is my favorite thing. In past company, what I'm basically now asking Navigator to tell me is tell me anybody who currently works for my top targets, the people that we maybe don't do business with, or maybe that we do business with, but I'm trying to expand, that has worked for previously our top organizations that already work with us. So think about the companies that do business with you, your best and brightest companies, the ones that do the most business with you, that give you an inordinate amount of revenue, that are on your customer advisory board, that give you customer testimonials, that have case studies with you. All of those can go in here, right? Pick 20, 30, 40 accounts. And what you're basically asking Navigator to do is tell me anyone who has previously worked for our best and brightest clients that currently works for the clients that I'm targeting. From here, you'll get a custom list, right? Which again, spans the globe, spans titles, but you can continue to use the search criteria over here to whittle it down. So what I would say is, hey, tell me anybody who has worked for our 150 existing clients who have the titles of CRO, head of enablement, SVP of sales, VP of sales, all the titles that we really care about and that we would want to get in front of, and that currently work for, let's say, the top 100 accounts that we want to get into. This is such a phenomenal search. Even if you don't know those people, even if they were never part of your buying cycle, even if they barely know who you are, just being able to leverage the fact that they used to work for an existing client of yours and they now currently work for not a client of yours, and leveraging that in your subject line for your show me, you know me, and your outreach is huge. So if I write something, let's say that says LinkedIn plus whatever company they work for now, plus hashtag samsales, that does an element of show me, you know me. It's quick, it's scalable. I can add it really quickly. And I can say, hey, Bill, we've yet to be properly introduced. I'm Sam McKenna. Looks like we both worked for LinkedIn. We just missed each other. We're in different lines of business. You were in New York. I was in New York also, whatever it is. Use that familiarity and then say, I don't know if you came across this during your tenure at LinkedIn, or I don't know if you ever worked with us while you were at LinkedIn, but I'd love to talk to you about how you can work with us. Or I don't know if you came across, our organization when you worked at LinkedIn, but I'd love to talk to you about what you can do or what we can do with you. So this is amazing, right? Again, looking for the people that spend the most amount of money, the companies that spend the most amount of money with you, who now work for the companies that spend no money with you or very little amount of money with you, and then finding that crossover. Beyond that, here's the really cool thing. So let's just even look at some of these early search results here. What you get is then again, shared connections, shared experience. And one of the things that you guys will see that we don't see because we don't have a corporate account is Team Link Extend will be over here. If you don't know what Team Link Extend is, and if you're not currently using it, this is your gold mine. So Team Link Extend leverages anybody in the company that has opted in your existing company, that has opted in to share their network. So let's say if we had Team Link Extend enabled, what we would have here is we would have, let's say, 2 Team Link Extend connections. And that means the 14 people that work at samsales, two of them have a relationship with this person. So Team Link Extend lets you leverage your internal network of people who work at your company who you may not know, you may not even know exist as a person on the planet, and lets you say, hey, internal person that works in my company, I just looked and I found this person, Bill Johnson, who used to work at one of our greatest clients, who works for one of the prospects that I am trying to target. And I see that you guys know each other. And I can also see that you both worked at CDW together before. Do you know each other well enough? Would you be willing to make an introduction? This is huge. So take a look at this. The other thing that I would say to you is make sure to save this search. So if you pop over here, I'll move my screen, click over here on save search, save that search. Just be mindful, you guys only have 15 searches that you can save. That's the threshold that we've got there. Of course, if you create one and it's not so great and you want to create something else, you totally can. Just delete one that's not working for you and then create a new one, call it a day. But killer search. And then anytime somebody new that fits the criteria that you've put together updates their profile on LinkedIn, you'll get a notification. Instant leads to your box every single day. Cool. Let me show you one more and then we will turn it over to Lily for questions. So the other thing that I like to do is to see past company where I've worked. So past company, again, I would put in LinkedIn, I would put in On24, I put in other companies that I've worked for, and then I would put the same thing. Current company, tell me who used to work at the places that employed me and then now currently work at a company that I'm trying to get in front of. Same search criteria, geography, titles, etc. I'm going to also look for team link extend because guess what? If they worked for my previous employers, they probably know either shared common connections or people that I know that currently work at my organization. The shared common connections is so easy. So let's say I find a VP of sales, which we did the other day, who used to work for On24 that I didn't have any crossover with. I can look at our shared connections. I can see if the bunch of people that person knows that we have in common that can also vouch for who I am. And I can reach out and say On24 plus their current company plus hashtag samsales. And then again, I'll say, hey, looks like we missed each other when we were there. I see that you know these 3 people, you know, they're incredible friends of ours. Would love to talk to you about how we can help your organization. Would you be willing to give us a shot? Just the alumni factor, right, is huge. We always used to talk about how going to the same school was a huge thing, going to the same college, like that's kind of dated. Let's look for people who used to work at our current company. And here's a great bonus tip for you. So once you've exhausted that, and of course, save that list out as well, do that for your boss or your boss's peer or the 6 peers that your bosses have, because I promise you, nobody else on your team is doing it and taking advantage of that. So go and look, where did your boss work before this, right? Do they have good relationships there still? Does anybody that they know that previously worked there work at your existing companies? You could do this for 48 hours straight, come up with a massive lead list and book meeting after meeting after meeting. For any AEs that are on the call, if you are not doing this with your BDRs as a strategy, holy moly, are you missing the mark, right? So much that you can do here. Now, a bunch of other searches we can run. I'll stop there to kind of turn it over to you now that I've monopolized the conversation for 15 minutes, but hopefully 2.5 really good searches that you guys can run that can set you on your way. All right, Lily, I will pass it over to you. Any questions teed up?
Yeah, we have one in the chat. Cool. Is there a way to find on LinkedIn what your past company is called now? For example, I worked at AOL and NYC, but it's been acquired by Verizon Media, Yahoo, etc. So not sure what my former coworkers call it on LinkedIn.
Do you know anyone who still works there? So I think that would maybe be my first question, or look for some of your old coworkers and see what they reference it as. That might be a tricky one, especially if it's been acquired multiple times, or if it's dead, right? Like one of my old companies doesn't exist anymore, so can't find that bad boy. But people still have it on their profiles, right? So you can still search it, even if there's not a LinkedIn company for it. You can see like a LinkedIn page for it. You can still search it, not this way, but just search and see who still identifies as having been an employee of that company, and find some common crossover. Just not as easy as doing it here. Great question. Only one question, you guys. Let's hear. You guys must have questions of how to use this, unless it's just I have absolutely no idea how to use this and show us all the things, which I can do that too. Throw in your questions or give us a shout in the chat about what you'd like to hear more about. Oh, I see 2 participants raised hands. Lily, do you see that? Who do we have? Nathan, let's hear from you. Hi, buddy. How's it going?
Hey.
Hey, man.
Here from Durham, North Carolina. How's it going, y'all?
Hey, Nathan.
I am like totally new to Sales Navigator. I have the free trial. My AE gave me a quick tutorial the other week about doing the lead list, which is great. For me, it's about like the temptation of connecting with people who I really want to kind of prospect to as a lead. I still kind of feel hesitant about reaching out, connecting, when to connect and send an in-mail or just an email. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question. So I'll go on a limb to just say I don't personally advocate for the in-mail. And I know there's some LinkedIners on the phone who are definitely like, Sam, no. Here's what I think. So I think the LinkedIn in-mail is a crutch. We use LinkedIn in-mail as a different mechanism for messaging. It has a higher open rate than email. That's fantastic. The thing is, our buyers, like the thing that keeps coming back, is people feel like in-mails are spammy. And if you kind of look at your in-mails, the majority of the in-mails I get are all spam. So they're people just trying to sell me something, trying to book meetings for us, do whatever. And I think it's kind of gotten a reputation for that, unfortunately. So what I would tell you is try to add value first. So instead of directly connecting, right, with the person, try to find a way to add value. This is what I love lead lists for. So top 50 prospects, top 100 influencers, top 200 prospects, right? In your lead list, you have the tabs at the top. Let's pull one of these up for us just for fun, and show you guys kind of what the lay of the land looks like there. Let's just look system generated. We'll pull that so we don't show you anything too private there. For anyone who just took a screenshot of our internal mechanisms, kudos to you. But you've got all these tabs at the top, right? When you see these lead lists, and there's a couple that are really important to me, but one is who's posting what on LinkedIn, right? So that's what I care about, right? Check that out, Nathan. 59 of these people that are recommended leads to us, which again, I don't know if any of these are actually good leads for us, but 59 of them have posted on LinkedIn. So that's what I would do first. Go and look and see what they're posting. Go and see if you can contribute to the conversation. Do this on Mondays. For those of you guys who have participated in my LinkedIn stuff before, you know that it is very, very, very rare that I post on Mondays, because Monday is the day that everybody decides they're going to post on LinkedIn. So I know I'm going to get less visibility because there's more traffic on the site. So instead, I'll use Monday as my day to go and comment and engage with other people. This is modern day prospecting. So on Mondays, pop this open, see who the 59 are, go and throw value add commentary, true thought leadership. Don't say like, cool post, Sam. Say something that's meaningful, right? And that shows what's in your head. If you have no idea what to say, ask a buddy, ask your AE, ask your leader, ask me. I will help you out. But go and throw your commentary. And then after you do that 2 or 3 times, go and connect with them. Hey, Sam, I keep seeing your posts because I'm stalking you. Would love to stay in touch. Love the content that you have. Thought I would say hello here too. And then you've got an opportunity to build a relationship a little bit more, add a few more pieces, maybe send them an article that would be helpful to them in their role. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's going to probably get you the meeting, get you a referral, get you to a yes or a no faster instead of being in limbo and just sending one outreach email after another. And what an awesome way to build your brand with that person, especially Nathan, I suspect that you were a BDR, especially as a BDR, right? Early in your career, by not being just the overly aggressive sales rep that sends a connection request without context and then does the pitch slap directly afterwards. I have a few more things to tell you, but let me pause there. My answer is always long-winded. Helpful so far? I'm going to go with a yes. Let's hope that's a yes. Cool. Other thing I would say in the tabs up here that I love is obviously the change jobs in 90 days. So if we have people that we're tracking, right, where are they going? Number one, are these our existing customers? Are these our champions? Are we in a deal cycle with these people and they change jobs? Did we just lose, the person that's been advocating for our deal for so long? Also, just real quick shout out, if you're not multi-threaded in your deals, which 75% of opportunities are per LinkedIn data, are only single threaded, make sure you are multi-threaded in your deals. But take a look at who changed jobs. For us, the most critical list this is one of the things that we do called Job Hopper. It's a little bit like what you can do with LinkedIn Navigator and Salesforce and Dynamics, but way, way more robust. We keep a list, and you guys can do this too. We keep a list of every single person that we've closed a deal with, that's touched our deals, that we've closed lost a deal with, that we've closed canceled a deal with. Anyone who has touched our deals, right, that has exposure to us, has gone through some sort of demo or sales cycle with us, goes in this list. every single time somebody changes jobs or gets promoted, depending on which of the two, we'll congratulate them. And then we'll try and have a conversation about what we can do for their new organization. That's a monstrous lead list for you. A little tougher as an individual AE and as a BDR, because those job changes usually happen out of your territory, sadly. But even if you monitor that and hook up your other BDRs, right, or your other AEs, maybe they'll do it back for you. And then you guys can create a killer cross-pollination of job changes and helping each other out to really drive revenue for one another. Nathan, are you off mute and can you hear us?
I will try. Am I?
You are. How's that? How helpful was that? Any questions there?
I'm digging it. And that makes a lot of sense because for me, I feel like that's another thing about just adding value with timing. And my thing is like, I have some sequences going. I sell into enterprise food companies. But part of me is like, should I keep running these sequences and follow up with calls, or just timing, like when to start everything brand new? And now that I have opted in for Sales Navigator, and I just feel like I'm resetting and trying to like sell my BDR manager on what I'm doing and taking a new process, right? Without not sending anything out. That's kind of the thing, is like timing, basically. Yeah.
I think you can run your LinkedIn game and your outreach game simultaneously. Those don't have to be two separate things or in isolation. So keep your sequences going and then start to add value, right? That way they see your name in their inbox and they also see you doing a positive thing, trying to show them that you know them, trying to invest in who they are, trying to help them by adding comments on their posts, right? We post for a reason because we want people to see our words. And the only way that we can see our words is by having you guys comment. So when you comment, you're doing a huge favor for that person. Do 2 or 3 of those and then connect with them, right? Again, they'll be so much more apt to respond to you, even if it's a no, or even if they say no and you say, do you think anybody else in the organization could benefit from this? Anyone else you think I could reach out to, right? Leverage that conversation. The other thing I would say, if you're new to us, Nathan, if your show me, you know me game isn't strong on your first email that you send out, definitely think about how to do that, especially when you're reaching out probably to senior titles at enterprise organizations. You're one of 20 people, 25, 30 people reaching out to them that week, that day. So that show me, you know me piece is super important to make sure that you stick out. Cool. Lily, thanks, Nathan. Thanks for saying hello and thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
Who do we have next?
Sam, I'm going to jump in here for Lily
Cool.
and read you a question from the Q&A.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is from PJ. Navigator alerts seem to come through slower and not as real time as LinkedIn.com. For example, the alert comes in hours later instead of the moment it happens. Is that normal for Navigator?
I don't notice a lag on my side. Great question. And you mean the alerts by like that somebody posted on LinkedIn? I'm guessing that's what you mean. If that is what you mean, what I would tell you for the really important ones, hit that bell on their profile. If you guys don't know what that is, if you go to most anybody's profile, you can see it on ours as well, hit our bell. Go to the top right-hand corner of their profile, just under their banner, and you'll see a little bell. If you hit that every single time they post, you'll be notified. I would just tell you too, if you're going to contribute to their posts using that bell, be mindful, especially if it's a prospect that you're trying to get the attention of, be mindful that you're not always the very first person to reach out, right? That you're not like, oh my God, hi, here's my comment again, every single time. Like, play it a little cool. But keep in mind too, like this commenting game is really strong because most of the executives that you're reaching out to don't get a lot of comments. And if they do, they're all from their internal resources, right? So look at the executives that you're trying to target. I bet you their comments are low. And I bet you if they have decent comments, 8, 9, 10, whatever, they're probably all from people that report to someone who reports to someone who reports to them, right? Trying to be like, look at me, I'm awesome. So easy way for you to stand out because they might get a lot of likes, but they'll get low comments. We do a bunch of executive branding for executives and write their editorial calendars for LinkedIn, their posts. And one of them got, over 4,000 likes the other day, a ton of shares, and not that many comments from external resources. So tons and tons of exposure, but not a lot of comments. People are lazy. We don't comment. If we have to think of something, we have to type it out. So easy thing to do. I haven't noticed a lag, JP, but to avoid that and make sure you got it, just hit that bell on their profile for the really important ones and you'll be good to go. Cool. Paige?
Okay, and we've had a couple people ask a similar question. How do you engage with a prospect or target audience if they don't post or engage on LinkedIn?
Yeah, great question, and always the worst. So a couple of things. One, I think we often make the mistake as sellers of thinking about just that buyer persona. So let's pretend for a second that you wanted to sell something to Sam Sales, and you're like, Sam is, we assume, is the decision maker. The only person we're going to target is her. But you don't know about Paige and Lily and Catherine and Kim and Sarah on our teams, who are our team singular, who are all part of that decision-making circle, right? So I don't make decisions very often in a vacuum, right? I'm always looking for feedback. What have I missed? Insights, right? It's a little bit of a democracy on our side, pretty much democracy on our side. So think about that too. If you're only focused on your buyer or the direct influencer to your buyer, we're missing the mark. For us, we target CROs, VPs of sales enablement, like I said before. I'm not only targeting them, I'm targeting the people that report to them. I'm targeting content, and commenting on people that report to the people that report to them. Because what we're trying to do is get a conversation going, trying to teach them something. Let's take Nathan, for example, right? Nathan is a BDR, and I suspect has a whopping budget of $0, which is exciting for Nathan. But we just taught Nathan something, and maybe Nathan uses that and he starts to see more success. And his boss says, how are you seeing success? And Nathan says, well, I learned something from Sam McKenna. And Nathan's boss says, who? And then we get exposure that way. So maybe Nathan, who again is not our target demographic, as lovely as you are, Nathan, if he's posting on LinkedIn, maybe I'll post and add some commentary and teach him something so that I can eventually inboundy get my way into the organization. If no one is posting, if it is all like, I don't know, really, really old school stuff, and there's like a dusty presence on LinkedIn for the organization, think about how you can send, number one, smart email campaigns with Show Me You Know Me. Doing your research on the human, the vertical, the company, their space, what's going on in the news, listening to their podcasts out of the CEO. A BDR that just started following us did exactly that yesterday and landed a meeting. She posted about it. It takes time, but I'd rather spend 15 or 20 minutes figuring out how to show me you know me to actually book a meeting versus wait another 9 weeks to just grind away on somebody to finally get them to cave and give me a meeting. So make sure you're doing that first and foremost. If you get, let's say, somebody that responds and says, hey, we'd love to talk to you, but not for another 90 days or 120 days or whatever. While we could normally nurture them on LinkedIn, contribute to their content, stay top of mind, you can also do that over email. So have a little list of evergreen content that's relevant to the buyers that you reach out to. So we have a database of, HBR articles, the Atlantic articles, things like that, where we can send them along and say, hey, here's a really cool trend of what's happening with, CROs right now. Was reading it, thought of you, here's my perspective on it. Here's one line, what's in my brain on it, thought I'd pass that along. There's no ask, but it's still letting me nurture and trying to get in front of them in a meaningful way. And lastly, even if they're not commenting, the other thing that I do is I look to see if they're not posting, rather, I look to see if they're commenting on other people's content. So again, I will put poor Paige in the spotlight. Paige does not post on LinkedIn yet, but she comments. And so I'm going to go to Paige's profile. If you are trying to sell to Paige on our marketing team, go to her profile, look to see what she's commented on recently, and add a comment to her comment, add a reply, say, Paige, tag her. I love this. Here's my perspective. I totally agree. And then Paige will be like, who is this? And then you'll do that again. She'll be like, wait, who? And then eventually she'll get to know you. And then 3 times later, you will connect with Paige and be like, hey, I love the comments that you make on other people's content. I can't wait to see your posts. And then she'll connect with you. And then at least you have an open line of communication over LinkedIn message, other than just email.
Subtle, very subtle. Stay tuned next week, guys. Lots of posts coming up.
Yeah, coming up. She can't wait. She's on the edge of her seat, you guys.
Okay, we have Andy, who I'm going to call on to speak.
Hey, Andy.
Okay, Andy, you could, there you go.
Sam, Andy Rasick.
Hey, how are you?
Island, North Carolina. Doing well.
I saw you pop in. How are you?
Yeah. Quick question. So I'm selling into a new industry. Any tips, tricks, hints, hacks on identifying the current top voices and influencers in that space, besides just searching and stumbling upon who's popular?
Yeah, totally. I would look at hashtags that you think are relevant in that space and start to look that up. So let's say, again, you are new to selling to salespeople, look up, sales enablement, BDR, AE, SaaS, look up those hashtags and then see who's posting on them. The loud voices, some of us use hashtags, some of us don't. Most loud voices do. They add something in there from time to time, right? Mine is normally just hashtag samsales, but if we are trying to get exposure, I'll throw in LinkedIn tips. I'll throw in hashtag BDR because that has a big reach, and look for that. Look also for the titles that those people are trying to sell to. Again, those loud voices, and then you'll find that. Andy makes a great point here, maybe directly or indirectly, but think about this too. It is not just about commenting on your buyers, your influencers, or influencers to your influencers. What you're trying to also do is get in front of the audience that those loud voices in that vertical already have built. So if you are trying to sell to senior sales leaders, enablement, CRO, things like that, you can go to people like myself, to Scott Leese, to Amy Volas, to Andy, and go and comment on the posts that they make. Because what you've got, if you think about this, it's fantastic. 2 or 3 minutes of you finding their post and adding a comment gives you access to 4 distinct audiences. So let's say, Andy, you find one of these new voices, you add a comment, you're basically getting access to that loud voice and that influencer. You're also getting access to anyone in their network that might see that post. You're also getting access to the other people who have commented on that post, and you're getting access to your own network. 2 or 3 minutes, massive exposure, people will see your name. And if you keep doing that, drop in once a week to do that, you'll get great engagement. People are great exposure. I get this comment all the time about how much engagement I get on my posts, which is great. And I'm sure, people are very excited about what I'm commenting about, but people are also just trying to get in front of the audience that I've built. So there's that too, which is a super smart strategy for anyone who's doing that. More the merrier.
Awesome. Thanks, Ann.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy. Good to hear your voice. All right, Paige, who do we have next?
Okay, next up, someone asked, do you recommend having something like Zoom Info as an addition to Sales Navigator?
Yeah, I think Zoom Info is great, for so many reasons. One, for any Zoom Infos on the phone, you are welcome on Zoom. You are welcome. Number 2, I'm sorry, because we know that the data is not so accurate, right? We know 50% on average. I'm sure somebody's gonna yell at me for that. But it's not always the most accurate thing, but I do like it for the information that you get, email addresses. I do like it for the org charts. I do like it for the data analysis acquisition that it had. So you can see, what platforms they're using and have some information. Again, I would say, kind of user beware. Not everything is totally up to date, and you can really tick somebody off if you make assumptions. But I do love having that as an additional tool. What I think, though, for the most part, it's rare that we do cold outreach. We mostly do everything through LinkedIn, try to build that momentum, right? Try to get people to say like, hey, we'd love to talk to you, and work those channels, and then get somebody over the line to share their email address with us. But if you want to do that 1-2 punch, right, using a great tool like Outreach or SalesLoft, run that cadence, right? Zoom Info is great. I like to overlay it with a few other platforms that give us data. That way we can kind of look at that. If you don't have access to Zoom Info, if you're an entrepreneur, if your company hasn't invested in it, there's Paige might know better, Lily might know better, but there's a few applications out there that'll give you the email addresses for free. A lot. Email Hunter, I think, is one of them. I can't think of the other ones right now, but there's a few of them out there that'll give you that information for free if you don't have $22,000 to spend on a Zoom Info license. But still a great value add and something good to have, and that integration as well, if you've got it. Cool. Who else do we have?
Okay, someone also asked in the chat, can you go over the workflow section and how best to use it? Is this where I select my CRM account list from Salesforce?
Yeah, tell me, can we unmute whoever asked that? You guys want to come on, unmute, off mute? I'm sure you're very excited too. Who was that?
Let me see, I need to scroll up a little. If anyone asks, feel free to raise your hand and I can unmute you.
Yeah. Workflow section, I don't think I know what you mean by that.
It's Veronica.
Veronica, are you on the line? And would you like to go off mute and talk through your question? Hi, Veronica. She might be taking a...
Oh, hello?
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Sam?
Good, Veronica. Nice to hear from you.
Sorry, which one of my questions? I think like I
Which one of
asked
the
a lot
many? Tell us about the workflow question that you had.
Oh, yes. So when you go on the lead list, on the bottom, there's that whole workflow section that I don't know if you can maybe show it a little.
You want to show your screen and show us?
Oh, I don't. Sorry, I'm on my personal computer. I should
No
get the
worries.
day off today.
Okay.
So there's like at the bottom right, there's like the whole workflow section and it says lead list. So sometimes I know some people on my team use it for, since we're connected to Salesforce to see CRM accounts. Since, as you know, I'm an AE, so accounts get transferred, pulled, we find new leads, etc. So I was just wondering if that's a section that you actually use at all or not, or if you can walk us through any, or should I just forget about it and focus on just making sure all my accounts are added?
I would just make sure all of your accounts are added. I think the workflows piece can also be a little bit confusing just to the way it integrates back and forth with Salesforce. What I would tell you is, again, like use these lead lists in a totally different way than trying to make that integration work. What I would do, again, scooting that out of the way, what I would do with these lead lists is one, custom curate these lead lists to be the verticals, the titles, the geographies that you guys are trying to target. I would also think about champions, influencers, users, all that stuff for these lead lists. That's where this comes in handy. So let me maybe back up and tell you, I'm going to just show you something really quick. I'm going to pull up my dear friend Leah Cohen here and just show you something quick. So when I go to a new profile, and kind of here's how you want to think about using this. When I go to a new profile, I'm looking at this individual. I want to see, who are all these people that, what's the information here? Who are other people that might be recommended, his experience, all that jazz. That's great. But what I also want to think about, right, is if I look up here, you can pop here, he's already saved, but I would save him immediately. When I save him, it's going to go into a lead list. And this is where you want to start to get smart about the creation and the segmentation of your lead lists. Don't just put everybody in one giant bucket, make sure it's segmented down. So I might say like SVP of sales, tech, former, coworker that I don't have crossover with or something like that, right? Even though I obviously know Lee very well, but I would put him into a list and make sure that everybody's segmented that way. One thing to note too is that when you hit save, for any of you guys that are new to Navigator, when you hit save on somebody's profile in Navigator, they have no idea that you've done it. So they're not aware of it. And there's also some privacy settings that you guys have access to as Navigator customers that you don't on LinkedIn.com. Let me touch on that just really quick. So on LinkedIn.com, if the only thing you have is LinkedIn.com, the privacy that you have, you give what you get. And what I mean by that is if you choose to be anonymous, meaning you can go on people's profiles and they have no idea it's you, that means you also can't see who looks at your profile. I don't think that that's that harmful in LinkedIn.com because the only people that you can see that look at your profile on LinkedIn.com are the last 5 people who have looked at your profile. So it's not that helpful, right? Like if 15 people look at your profile today and you just happen to miss the first 10, you only see the last 5. But by being a LinkedIn Sales Navigator customer, you can go into your settings. So just pop up here to your little image, go to your settings. It'll take you to LinkedIn.com and you can change your privacy to be anonymous and still be able to see everyone who looks at your profile and for the last 90 days. So that's a very, very cool thing from a privacy perspective. I love to check that, who's looking at my profile, why. I also like to see that for people that I have in my sequences, right? If we're doing cold outreach, if we've messaged people, if they look at my profile, I want to know why. What is it that they're looking at, right? Why have they jumped in? Is that a buying signal for me? Should I message them? That's also, if I see somebody looking at my profile, a signal to me to message them and send them a nurture email. And I might send them a quick message to say, hey, I just saw this article today. I thought of you, wanted to send it to you. What happens a lot of the times when I do that is people will respond and they're like, oh, hey, oh my God, I was just thinking about you today. And I'm like, And then I'll get them to respond and tell me what they were thinking about. And then hopefully to be able to book a meeting. Once you have these people that are put into your lead lists, again, like just kind of going back to this one, our recommended leads, I pop into these systematically at least once a week. And the biggest thing that I'm looking for, again, is who is posting content on LinkedIn, who has changed jobs. And the other thing that I love to do with this is to see who follows our company. This used to be a thing that you didn't have access to on LinkedIn, to be able to see who follows your company. Then that privacy changed. You can now see who looks at your company, who follows your company, but take a look at this. If you've saved multiple lead lists, if you haven't used this before, who follows you guys and why do they follow you? Can you leverage that as something specific there? The other thing that I would say is mentioned in the news past 30 days. This is great. So what news, what publications? Is it a podcast? Is it something, in USA Today? Is it a massive publication? Like, what is it, right? All of this information allows you to do show me, you know me, and pretty quickly. So I can engage with that person. I can see when they were mentioned in the press. I can use that in my email to them. It's awesome. Other thing that I was just going to mention on profiles, when you're looking there, you'll also see a section for recommended leads. And recommended leads to me is one of the most underutilized things that we've got on LinkedIn. So the LinkedIn algorithm on Navigator is looking for people who are searched in groups. So if you're going to meet, let's say with myself, Paige, and Lily, the first thing that you're going to do is search for all of us on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn's going to say, okay, well, that's a bundle. Those 3 people were searched for together. I wonder if that happens again. And so maybe next time you're just going to meet with Paige and I. And so somebody else searches Paige and I together. And it starts to aggregate that. Those people who are in the recommended leads should pop into a key influencers recommended leads list. You should save them out, again, for a particular vertical, a particular person you're going after. This information is at your fingertips, right? Again, just put it together and be able to leverage that information. As a quick idea of like why this is so helpful and something that's happened with me in the past is there was a chief marketing officer that we were trying to sell to. I met him at a conference. He told us not to reach out for 6 months. He's excited to talk to us then. And so we did. But what does every rep do when that happens? Every rep that hears that goes to LinkedIn, they connect with that person. They say, can't wait to talk in 6 months. They go to Salesforce. They set a reminder for 5 months, for 3 weeks and 6 days. And then they reach back out in 5 months, 4 weeks, and whatever the hell it is, 6 days. And when they do that, what's transpired in that last 6 months? Have we kept in touch? Have we nurtured? Have we done any of that? So most reps don't do that. They just wait, they follow up. They think the deal is dead in the water until then. Instead, I met that CMO, connected with him on LinkedIn, saved him on LinkedIn Navigator, which, by the way, you might think it's enough to be first degree connected with somebody, but if you save them in Navigator, I'm going to get an alert every single time this person's mentioned in the press. And that's what I want. I want to know what's happening with them in and outside of LinkedIn. And I want to know what's happening with them in the news, right? Not just what they're posting, but is there a podcast where they mentioned somewhere, where they quoted somewhere? Can I use that? But in addition to that, I saved out those recommended leads. And what happened was, while I'm nurturing that buyer, while I'm sending him things that are value add, I'm also looking to see what his team is talking about on LinkedIn. So one of his team members posted and said, hey, we're looking to replace the solution that we have now, the competition to me, Sam. And I saw that post on LinkedIn, which I would have never seen had I not saved that lead. I took a screenshot. I sent it to the CMO. I said, hey, it's only been 2 months. I know you said to wait another 4 months, but I saw this and I thought the timing might be better. We ended up getting our deal and getting a 3-year deal at that. The thing you've got to think about is how many times those conversations happen internally. When somebody pushes you off, you never know what can change on a dime. So save that information, see what's going on, see what they're posting about that's happening in their business, right? The people that report to the people you're trying to talk to. Again, this is modern day prospecting. It's not just about sending emails and hoping that our solution sticks. It's about learning what's going on in the businesses of our top prospects and using that information to hopefully show me, you know me, and to get an advancement out of it. Cool. That makes me think of something that I want to show you guys, but Paige, any questions to answer right now? Thanks, Veronica, by the way.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a couple, but I think people are wanting to see some more examples. So I think what you were about to do might be good.
Yeah.
Alyssa was asking for more examples like you gave in the beginning with saved searches and alerts.
You got it. So I'm going to show you one thing here. Let's go to Paige, your delightful profile. So this is one of my favorite hacks. Number one, if I'm looking at Paige, one of the things that I really care about is obviously Paige. But next I care about who she knows. So think about this for your executives. Think about who is in your direct line of command. Who do they know? Who do they know specifically? You can do this with like 6 or 7 executives on your team. So I'm going to go to Paige's profile. I'm going to hit her 500 degree or 500 to create 500 plus connections. By the way, You need to be first degree connected to be able to do this. And second, not everybody will let you see this. Some people are private, but Pages is public. Thanks, Paige. So as long as you're first degree connected, you can see Pages connections. So I'll click on that, give it a second to load. And what you'll see is, again, those same search filters that pop up, but what you've got here is connections of Page. Now, Page actually has more than this. This is a LinkedIn product, if anybody is listening. This is a glitch of LinkedIn Navigator. It will always say $9.97, $9.98, or $9.99. Page has more connections than that. I don't know why this glitch doesn't get fixed. Just be aware of that. Now, the thing is, I don't really care about all of Page's connections. I just care about Page's connections that I care about. So one of the easiest hacks you can do is pop to this guy down here, save leads and accounts, hit plus. And if you have your account list saved, or if you have your lead list saved, just hit include. So when I hit include, it's going to tell me everybody the Page is connected to that works at one of the accounts that I have saved, or anybody the Page is connected to that's on the lead list that I have saved. So if you have like 3,000, 4,000 leads in a heartbeat, in a one click, you can see 2-3 clicks, you can see who those executives are tied to. I love this hack. The other thing that I think about, right, again, is like doing this 1, 2, 3 across your executives, but what about the executives we don't know? So I'm going to give a shout out to one of my old coworkers, Beth, who was a very entry-level AE at LinkedIn when I joined, who probably ran a search like this, but check this out. So finding these executives, let's go to lead filters, back there. And what I love to do, back to where I was, is do current company, your existing company. Then I like to put in, depending on how big you are, you want to manage these titles. So at LinkedIn, when I ran this search, I would have LinkedIn in here for current company. And then for titles, which is somewhere on here, you guys can probably already see it, and you're probably all shouting at me where it is. And of course I can't see it, but anyway, for title, if at LinkedIn, I would only put VP and above. LinkedIn's big. VPs are a big deal, right? We're a very flat organization there. So I would put VPs in there, and then I would hit search. Now, I don't actually care about all the VPs that work at LinkedIn. What I care about is any new VPs that are coming in. So every time a new VP would update their profile and say, I'm leaving Oracle and I'm joining LinkedIn, I would get a lead notification about it. What would I do as a leader? I would go and connect with them. I would say, welcome to LinkedIn. Oh my God, you're joining an amazing company. They really didn't. LinkedIn's amazing. And then I would say, I'm a fellow leader here. Just wanted to say hello. They would accept. What would I do next? I would click on their 500 connections, and I would go and see who they know that is in our existing book of business or that of my reps. What I love about this is you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the executive. And a new executive comes into an organization and they are so eager, especially at the VP level, to prove value quickly. So Beth at LinkedIn did exactly this. She saw I was coming in. She looked to see if I had common connections with an account, and then she asked for my help. She is the only rep that did that at LinkedIn. That's huge. So odds are no one's doing that at your organization. This is a great search. Go back to that executive and say, welcome, by the way, while you're here and you're drinking from the fire hose and you're trying to figure out where the bathroom even is, or if you've gotten your swag box yet, if you're still working from home, I would love to ask for your help. Seems that you know 18 people that are in our target accounts or that we're currently stuck in deals with. Do you know any of these people well enough? Could we ask for a helping hand? You are going to get most VPs who will say absolutely, because they're so excited to make impact. And that's one of the easiest things that they can do to make impact to revenue right then and there, by giving you a helping hand with somebody that they know. This, again, gold mine to be able to tackle and be able to look at who those executives are. The other cool thing, for just a little bit of a further level, for any leaders that are listening to our session today, one thing to think about is who knows who, right? So one of the biggest deals that we sold back in my day, actually it was gone at the time, but it ended up coming to fruition, was with Morningstar. And when I started working with one of the reps and said, who are you trying to get into? She said, Morningstar. And I said, let me see who I know. And I didn't know the person she was trying to get in front of, but I knew someone who knew that person. And so I said, oh, well, my buddy knows this person. Let's see if he can help us. And she said, well, we've been trying to get in front of that guy for 2.5 years. We can't do it. So she could never see that common connection, right? If she's looking at the buyer persona that she's trying to get in front of, she doesn't see that I know somebody that knows him. So even if you get one or two of your executives on the call and say, what are the accounts you guys are trying to target? Ask your CRO to participate, that your CMO, your CIO, whoever it is that you're trying to target, the buyer persona you're trying to target, and ask that internal resource to help you out and see, do we have any common connections there? The great part was in reaching out to that buddy said, I'm in that person's cousin's kitchen eating brunch right now. What do you need? And I was like, I need a meeting. And the person that we were trying to target wrote my buddy back and said, these people have been harassing me for years. I don't have any interest in changing platforms, but I'll take a meeting for you. And if it's something that can be of help. And so we took that meeting. We ended up getting that meeting. The really cool thing, by the way, is that meeting, when we got on, turns out that the buyer persona was super flustered because he's a brand new dad. And so my rep just talked to him about being a new parent for 30 minutes. They didn't even talk about business. They spent the time building rapport. So think about that too, right? Again, these discovery calls are meant to be discovery, but sometimes people just want to talk about their personal stuff. And if you give them that time, which no other sales rep will, you'll get ahead. She ended up closing a record-breaking deal with that organization as a result of all of that. So just sit down for a second, pop open Sales Navigator and say, who are you trying to get in front of? What are the companies you're trying to get in front of? Let me see if I know anybody there, which hopefully your reps already know, whether you do or not, because they've done that research. But if I know someone who knows someone there, a lot of the times, especially for senior people who have been in the industry for a long time, have big networks, we've done a lot of favors for a lot of people. So we'll find people that owe us a favor and can probably help us open a door. One more thing to think about here is don't be afraid or intimidated by the seniority of the executive that's coming in. So one of my old reps would reach out to somebody very, very, very high ranking at Microsoft all the time. And there's a chain of command and you want to work with your leader, especially if you are entry, just new to the job, you want to work with your leadership before you go 17 levels above you, but work on a path to ask somebody for introductions. One more thing on that note, make sure that you give context, especially if you work for a larger company. Again, at LinkedIn, I got messages all the time. Sam, it's Bob. Can you get me in a Morningstar? No, who the hell are you? So make sure to give information about who you are, the context of the account, what you've done to get in there so far. Offer to ghostwrite that email for the executive that you're asking for help from. I would also ask for it once. I would follow up one time, and then I would use EQ that person's not interested in being of help at the moment and back off. So don't just keep following up with them like we do with our prospects. Let me think of what else I wanted to show you guys. Any questions that have popped in the meantime, Paige?
There's a couple, actually two kind of related about Show Me, You Know Me.
Yeah.
Sam asked, it takes time. How far down the ladder would you say it makes sense to do that? I'm looking to give input to SDRs for prospecting in working quantity with quality. Yeah. And then we also had somebody asking about Show Me, You Know Me. And since so many people are connected on LinkedIn without really knowing each other, what's your perspective on using mutual connections as a Show Me, You Know Me?
Yeah, so a couple of things I like to do. If you go pop over here, let's go with the second question first. So connections of, right, if we go back and say Paige, Paige Tills, throw her in there. One of the things that I might also do is, Paige, what was it, University of San Diego or San Diego State?
I went to University of San Diego, worked at San Diego State.
Okay. All right. So I might look for connections that Paige knows that also either live in her town now, went to her school, worked for previous companies that she worked for, or previous universities. I'm looking to find, especially if I look at somebody who has 6,000 common connections in my book of business, and I'm like, how the hell am I going to segment that? I start to look again, have those people previously worked for my person's previous employers? Do they live in the city that my person lives in now? Did they go to the school that the team like Extend Connection or the person I'm looking at go to? So easy way to kind of segment this down to a more narrow niche of people that have a higher likelihood of being connected. The other thing that I would say here is think about also proactive referrals, a little bit out of Navigator, but you can still use Navigator for this. If I went to one of our best clients, let's say we have a client who's like, this was amazing, you guys did a great job. We'd walk through fire to work with you forever. I would say, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. We would love to know who in your network could use our services. Do you mind if I proactively go to your LinkedIn profile and then send you some names of people we'd love to meet? This is where kind of that volume gets tricky. So I get a little cheeky. I might put together 12, 15 names for that person of people that they know that I want to get in front of. And then I would send a note back and say, hey, Kevin, here are 15 people that you know. Now, I do not expect you to obviously make introductions to all the 15. And I also know that our network is filled with people that we don't actually know. So I thought I would hedge my bets. And I hope that you know 1 or 2 of these people, to which Kevin will say, oh my God, I know 7. Do you want me to make introduction? I'll be like, yes, please. Thank you so much. Quantity over quality. So for BDRs especially, don't be afraid to go high. And reps, leaders alike, I see make the same mistake. We typically reach out to the level that we know or the level that we report to. Once we get over that, right? If you're an AE, you're comfortable talking to a manager, maybe a senior manager, maybe a director, but like when you start to think about reaching out to a VP, you start to sweat a little. Don't be afraid of that, right? I'd rather go up and work my way down than go down and gatekeep my way up. So for the quality piece on Show Me, Know Me, start at the top level. They're more likely to be on podcasts, speaking in articles, at conferences, posting on LinkedIn, sharing something that we can find about that person, and then do that Show Me, You Know Me, right? You can also do this at scale when you reach out to individuals. So if you hear something, one of the VPs at Zoom told me the other day, a great email that worked on him was quoting their CFO and how it's relevant back to their solution. He used the quote in the subject line, which got my friend at Zoom, the VP, to be like, well, wait, like, what did our CFO say? And how is this relevant to us? So we're getting across the first hurdle there by actually getting the email open and then having the person say, like, I see that your CFO mentioned this. This is in direct correlation to how we can help you. Let me talk about what I assume a challenge is that you have here and how we can connect the dots. Similar, just example, one of our clients in the UK was going after a bank and said, nobody's on LinkedIn, nobody posts, I have no information, what do I do? So I said, well, let's Google them. What's happening with them in the press? And they had just issued something about doubling their valuation or the valuation that they got and trying to aim to double that in the next 5 years, I think it was. And that technology plays a direct role to that, to doubling that valuation. So it's great that you want to do that. How are you guys going to do it? Would love to talk to you about how we can play a critical role, how we can amp this up, et cetera. Just use the information that we have in the press, right? At scale, you can use that across a bunch of VPs, that information, or specific to that human. The higher you go for title-wise, the more Show Me, You Know Me I think you need. And I think if you can do one personal and one professional, what a great opportunity, again, to just stand out. And I'm telling you, I think that it takes cut yourself some slack on the time that it takes to do this. So you might start with it taking you 25, 30 minutes to do one. You might only get through 20 emails and think, oh my God, how am I going to hit my KPIs? You promise nobody cares how you get to the result as long as you get to the result. So if you end up booking 2 meetings off of 20 emails, you get a 10% meeting booking rate. Nobody's going to inspect whether or not you're making 100 cold calls. And if they do, we've got to really talk, send them my way. But they're not, because all they care about is the result. You can create your own processes. Nathan can create his own processes. But that's what I would say. Start at the top, make the investment. The other part is make sure that email is relevant and make sure that you're really thinking about one specific value proposition that person has or one specific challenge that person has that your value proposition can solve. So if I'm talking about Navigator, I'm selling Navigator. I am not saying we can help, use Navigator to surface information about your buyers to your sellers at the right time. Google Alerts can do that. I don't need you. That's what that buyer is thinking. Instead, I want to think about a challenge that they have. How do we create more pipeline? Well, are you tracking the job changes of your existing clients and how they move across territories? Because if not, that's one of the many things the Navigator can do. Happy to show you a process and how that can be of help. Somebody's going to say, we don't do that. We need help with pipeline. Seems like that would be an effective method. Happy to talk to you. Okay, I know we are just about out of time. As usual, link to our Navigator Shorts if you want way more about this in depth, 40% off today. We also have our next webinar that should be popping up in the chat if it hasn't already in September. We tend to focus on the foundational elements of sales. We want to go a little higher level. So bring your really tough questions, right? Did you lose a deal? Are you still thinking about a deal that you lost? Are you stuck in one right now? We're calling it our Stump Sam series. So come and try to stump us in our next webinar. And as always, if this was helpful to you, feel free to give us a shout out on LinkedIn and help more people learn about what we're doing. Thanks you guys for everything. Really good to see some of you and have you all join us today. Have a good one.